Hey viewers and viewers, my name is General Red Strategist and welcome back to So Being Hunted, episode 712 now. So, it's just going to be a little podcast style episode, this one, ladies and gentlemen. Recording this in the evening, just after work. It is actually, fuck it, I'll date the video. It's the 6th of January, ladies and gentlemen, and work has officially restarted, at least, next term at the institution where I work has begun. And so I was in today, giving my first lecture of the term and all that. So yes, the Christmas holiday is now well and truly over. Obviously, by the time this video goes out, though, it will be a few days after the 6th of January and all that. But no, I fancied actually coming in just to record another podcast-style episode of Sir, because as usual, I've got something on the brain, something that I've been encountering recently, and I just thought, I have to do a podcast-style episode talking about it and all that. So, as always, I've been cruising around on YouTube, and it's always interesting how YouTube obviously recommends new channels to me every so often, or at least, channels that I've never really encountered before and I don't know much about. And so, every once in a while, when YouTube does that, obviously, you come across a channel that you previously were unaware of, but then when you become aware of it, you're kind of glad actually that YouTube did recommend it, because actually it's kind of interesting. I've had channels like that before, plenty. I've talked about ones in the past where that's been the case, for me at least. But the channel that most recently YouTube has recommended to me, and which I've started watching content for, was a channel called Izzyyyzyyzyyyyzyzyzy. I don't know if there's a specific way you're supposed to pronounce it. It's basically like Izzy with a load of Z's on the end. You probably are aware of the channel. Basically, it's a young woman from, I think, Australia. Is she from? Or New Zealand? One or the other. I can't quite place the accent exactly. I feel like Australian, but I feel like if I say that, immediately people are going to be like, ugh, don't you know a freaking New Zealand accent when you hear one? Watches actually people in the comments and they go, actually no, she's like, I don't know, South African or something, God knows. But no, she wouldn't be that. She's Australian or New Zealander, one or the other. But in essence, she basically, she has a whole range of big sort of long-form essay-style videos where she talks about a whole range of different subjects. Usually subjects to do with various internet dramas, or like big sort of internet phenomena that are a bit weird and in some ways a bit messed up. So, for instance, one of the most recent ones of hers that I actually watched was basically all about the unethical situation surrounding Instagram dog breeders who basically breed bully dogs, that kind of thing, which is an incredibly, I would say sort of niche subject, I would say. It's not a subject I would have thought I'd be interested in, but I clicked onto the video just out of general curiosity and ended up watching the whole thing, and it was fascinating. Fascinating, weird, and kind of disturbing, because of course, if you know anything about the sort of murky world of dog breeding, particularly unregulated Instagram dog breeders, things like that, you know that it gets weird. And of course, with some of these dog breeds, particularly these bully ones, there's a lot of health complications that these dogs have. And obviously that raises all kinds of ethical questions. So I watched that one recently, but the one that I actually watched most recently, did I just say I watched the dog one most recently? I don't know why I said that. No, one of the ones I watched recently was the dog one, but the one I watched most recently, that's what I wanted to say, was actually something more horror themed from her channel, and it was really fascinating because I'd never heard of this. But apparently in 2024 someone made basically did what purported to be a screensaver called 3D Workers Island. And like I said, I'd never heard of this thing, but I clicked onto the video out of curiosity because I was like, a screensaver in 2024? Are screensavers still a thing in 2024? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually are, but I always remember when I was a kid, back in the 90s, screensavers were obviously a big thing then, and I think, was that something to do obviously with the whole era of CRT monitors? The thing that, if you left a CRT monitor switched on idle for too long on the same screen, it would actually eventually burn an image of what was on the screen at that time into the screen. Was it so that I may be really butchering the technical description of that, but you know what I mean, right? Was there not a thing? Was that not a thing that people said could happen, and that screensavers therefore were supposed to help your computer avoid? Because basically, if your computer would be idle for long enough, it would activate a screensaver, which would be sort of like a weird animated background that would come on. And because it's animated and things happen, it would basically ensure that no sort of image becomes burned onto the screen. So obviously there's, classic screensavers that I very much remember from the 90s. Obviously there's ones that I think a lot of people in all sorts of countries will remember. There was like the 3D Maze one, Windows Maze. That was a classic one. I always remember when you were in primary school and there'd be that one computer in the corner of the class and it would go to that screensaver, and if the teacher is trying to do any actual teaching, they can pretty much forget it because everyone will be looking at that screen furtively when the teacher's not looking, just to see, does the computer eventually navigate its way to the end of the maze. So Windows Maze, of course, was a big one. Other ones that no doubt people will remember will be the pipes one, where it would draw like a complicated network of pipes on the screen. That was another one that I remember. I also remember ones where it was like weird bending shapes, things like that. I also remember there was one, was there not one that was kind of like a haunted house? It was like a house would be on screen, but like things would happen. So for example, you'd see little candle lights flicker in windows, or the door would spookily open and close on its own. Or like there'd be an owl hooting in the background, stuff like that. Or a bat flying across the screen. Other people must remember that kind of thing, right? And I remember there were screensavers you could get where it was basically just some text scrolling across the screen constantly, which would, I think the fun thing about that one was you could actually type the text out yourself. And I always remember in high school, the early years, before, of course, the IT lab eventually upgraded to more modern computers, when they were still using these old clunky freaking Windows 95 tower systems with CRT monitors. I can always remember some smart aleck in high school would always set as many of the computers as possible to have that scrolling text screensaver, and they would put some rude message on it or something. Yes, I remember that. And I'm sure there were probably lots of kids in lots of schools all over the world who probably did that. I also remember another screensaver from back in the day, and this probably wasn't a common one. I think this is probably one that you probably had to download somewhere. But it was sort of like, it was an interactive screensaver, where it was sort of like you had a crosshair, and the background was kind of like a sky, and there'd be these flying computers, and you would shoot them out the sky. Does anyone remember that one? That might be a bit more niche. But I have vague recollections of that. I wonder if there's a repository somewhere on the internet where someone has made a record of all the different types of screensaver that ever existed on old school Windows, 90s Windows computers. Surely, right? That's got to be a thing, I would imagine. But I think one of the most iconic screensavers I remember from back in the day was probably Johnny Castaway. That one that you could spend hours and hours watching, because basically it was, if you don't know what Johnny Castaway is, which I imagine many of you probably do, basically it was a screensaver of a guy who was marooned on a desert island, and basically I think what it had was, it had a load of pre-programmed animated things that Johnny would do on his little island. Like he would be fishing, or he'd be sleeping, or for example he might be setting up an SOS sign on the beach, or there'd be like a moment where he decides to go to sleep at just the wrong moment as like a yacht or something sails in the background, or a plane flies by or something like that. Basically that's what it was. It was just random events, and there must have been God knows how many of them programmed into that screensaver. And I guess the way it was programmed was, it was programmed in a way whereby the computer would basically just randomly select one of the events through our, some kind of random number generation or something. I guess. I don't know, but that's how I would wager it worked. And yeah, I remember my parents had Johnny Castaway on their computer at one point when I was a kid. I can remember, yeah, we would just watch Johnny Castaway for however long on end, seeing what sort of stuff he gets up to, what sort of stuff the developers of it had programmed in. But getting back to the channel I mentioned a moment ago, Izzy's. So she did a video that was all about this thing that came out in 2024 purporting to be a retro screensaver called 3D Workers Island. And as you guess, it's actually a horror thing. But it sounded so unique to me because screensavers were such a funny thing. Feels like there was something very unique to the 90s, early 2000s. To the era, basically, of CRT monitors. And I never would have thought someone would actually create a screensaver, or what purports to be a screensaver, but is actually basically a horror thing. And basically the whole idea, apparently, with 3D Workers Island is that it sort of purports to be a fairly innocent little screensaver that depicts basically a little island with a house on it and 6 little inhabitants in this very sort of minimalist, almost Lego figure-esque design. And basically, much like something like Johnny Castaway, the inhabitants of this island basically get up to all kinds of little random things. They'll cook barbecues, they'll do gardening on the little island, they'll do various bits and bobs. But the idea is that actually there's like a little dark secret hidden within this, and every so often the inhabitants of the island will do weird shit, which when you sort of think about it and piece it all together, there's this kind of underlying story that, spoiler alert, is apparently all to do with basically abuse, things like that. So pretty heavy. But there was this whole kind of like, I guess like ARG around it, with like what purported to be an internet forum where the truth was revealed about it and things like this, which was kind of crazy. Like I say, because I'd never heard of this thing, but it was really fascinating to me to actually listen to that video, and I would absolutely recommend that you go and watch it. It was quite something. Really, really enjoyable to watch. It's in total length the video is just under an hour or so, but it is well worth a watch and all that. And it just makes me think, what else could you do in terms of horror with a medium like screensavers, of all things? Because I never would have thought of screensavers as being a medium for telling a horror story. But actually, now that you think about it, yeah, it works. You set it up on the premise of it being some sort of, I don't know, like cursed, long-lost old 90s computer artifact with a dark secret hidden behind what appear to be just very colourful, lovely, pretty visuals. Then yeah, you could do so much with that. It's fascinating. But now I kind of want to see a, I want to see a horror screensaver now, based on Johnny Castaway, that basically is Johnny Castaway, but then really weird shit starts to happen, and slowly but surely, if you get lucky and you see disturbing random events, you can piece them together to start to figure out some kind of weird kind of underlying story, a picture of what is actually going on. God, I never thought I would have done a Serial Being Hunted podcast style episode where I talk about screensavers. Really does, though, want to make me actually check my computer, because screensavers surely must still be a thing, right? They must be. They must be surely a thing you can download even for modern computer systems. I remember when I was a kid I knew how to access them and set them, but of course it's been so long since I was a kid now that I feel like I don't remember, but I'm definitely going to check that out when I finish this recording. I'm going to check it out. I'm going to see, does my computer actually have screensavers on it? And if so, what kind of ones are there? Do they have any of the old classics from the 90s? Whoop, jeez. Little leg spike them. Or are there any new ones that are a bit weird that I don't remember? Or does it jog my memory? Maybe the ones from the 90s that I have just forgotten, but which I'll look at them and I'll think, oh yeah, I remember that. That's a real weird sort of nostalgia blast from the past kind of thing. Even though it is something incredibly mundane. Yorsh. Alright, well, I think that'll probably do for an episode, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, I know this is just a short, incredibly specific topic, but like I say, sometimes when I just get something on the brain, I have to talk about it, even if I just end up doing a 10-minute episode about it. Yeah. I suppose really the kind of big theme, probably, for this conversation is this idea of using unexpected forms of medium for telling stories in. So I'm kind of curious, apart from screensavers, what other forms of weird mediums, what other forms of medium do you think are out there through which you could actually tell a really weird or spooky story? Because obviously video games are a good one, and obviously you have all your traditional mediums, like film and literature. Probably even music as well. But what else? There's got to be other stuff, right? Screensavers obviously being one of them, but no, there'll be more. I tell you, there will be. There'll be other stuff you can probably... other mediums out there which probably have been used for creating weird little stories. So, don't make that noise, please. Alright, well, tell you what. Let's wrap this episode up here then, ladies and gentlemen. So, social media links, blah, blah, blah. Propagandist link, blah, blah, blah. Can all be found in the video description for anyone interested. If you enjoyed, a like is, of course, always appreciated. But other than that, I'm going to sign off now. I'll see you in the next episode. I'm kind of wondering if maybe we'll do a challenge in the next one, because Phil's made a big recommendation for a more complex challenge to me, but one that nevertheless sounds quite wacky and interesting. So, I may start that in the next one, unless some other weird random topic comes into my head between now and then, and I end up doing another podcast style episode, but we'll see. I'll see you then, ladies and gents. Goodbye, everybody. Hello. Anything up above? Oh god, flute worm. Hello. I see you. I know. It's definitely a secret. Oh, I missed all those, but never mind. Get you. And down. Crap. It's wanting me to do all kinds of stuff here. Oh, I don't have time for that. I have to just go, I think. Shoot. Over here. Yeah. I missed a load there, but never mind. I don't think I'm going to get quite as many lumps this time round. I don't think. Oh god. Crushers. Nope, shit. Do you think? Hey, stop that. Seriously. Okay, we're doing it though. We're near the front of this thing anyway, so it's fine. Shit. That apparently hurt me. Oh, friggin' thing up there.